I'm going to add a picture onto our slide, and I'm doing that just by dragging and dropping our picture onto the slide. I could also have gone up into Insert, Picture, from File, and there's our picture of the cake. We'll notice that this is a JPEG that we placed onto our slide, and when I click on it, our picture toolbar and our color toolbar both appear. These toolbars were covered in detail in the Writer series, Writer Tutorials 66 through 78, so we're not going to repeat that, but we may revisit a few things, but only to the point to how they apply to the new topics. I'm going to place a rectangle on the slide. When I place a shape like a rectangle next to the photo on the slide, it looks like they are different types of graphics. That's because they are. This rectangle is a vector graphic. And LibreOffice Draw is a vector graphic drawing tool, meaning when we place lines and shapes on the screen, LibreOffice is able to calculate, size, and position the vector graphic. This allows us to have sharp, crisp graphics, even if we zoom in very close, because those lines are calculated and recalculated to give us great line quality. Vector graphics take up less memory and give sharper lines. Our JPEG, on the other hand, is known as a raster graphic. The word raster is based on a Latin word and referred to the way an image was placed on a cathode ray tube screen. You might recognize them as those old green computer screens used up into the 1980s. Raster graphics are also known as bitmap graphics, since they are made up of a number of pixels. At one time or another, you've probably zoomed in so much on a bitmap, the dots got so big you couldn't tell what the original image was. That doesn't happen with vector graphics. So if vector graphics can resize so much sharper and take up so much less space, why don't we use them for family pictures? That's because vector graphics work best on geometric shapes, like the shapes we use in LibreOffice Draw. And at least with today's technology, it's just too much to turn a family picture into a number of geometric shapes and have it look as good as a raster bitmap graphic. But for an organizational chart or a flow chart, vector graphics are the way to go. A few videos back, we created a figure by placing some shapes on a slide, then resizing, recoloring, and grouping those shapes together. This was the result of that grouping. I've copied this figure a couple of times onto a new slide, given one a blue shirt, calling him Bitmap, and another one a maroon shirt, and naming this one Metafile. At this point, each of these is just a copy of our grouped shapes figure. So we have a little before and after. I'm going to copy these two figures and bring them down. And Control-V pastes a copy of our figures. Now I'm going to select our bitmap figure, go up to Modify, Convert, and we see our only two options are bitmap and metafile, so let's convert him to a bitmap. And the other one, Modify, Convert to metafile. So we've already said what a bitmap is, but what is a metafile? A metafile is kind of a cross between a raster graphic and a vector graphic, meaning it can do some of the things a raster bitmap graphic can do, and it can do some of the things that a vector graphic can do, but it doesn't have the complete functionality of either one. And there are different types of metafiles. If I go to save this one by right-clicking and go up to Save Picture As, we see that SVM, Star View Metafile, is the default type. If I click this down arrow, we also see we can use an enhanced metafile, an OS2 metafile, or a WMF, which is a Windows metafile. I'm just going to cancel out of here. I don't want to save it. Looking at our meta file, now that we've converted it, we notice that this turns into a square, whereas before it was more of a rectangle. And same with the bitmap. These two are both the same. So these are both going to be rectangles, but when we come down to the bitmap, it gives us a big square and just gives us space to the characters left or to our right. Let's stretch out our screen a little bit and zoom in a little. We're at 800, and we see that our meta file still keeps some pretty sharp lines. When we go over to our bitmap, we can see that that is pixelated a little bit. And even the text here is a little bit pixelated, whereas when we come back to our meta file, it's still pretty clear and crisp. So if we're adding text to an image, we might want to convert it to a meta file. If we zoom in, that text stays pretty clear. Let's zoom back out a little bit. This is our after conversion. And the bitmap here, and actually all our lines, seem just a little bit blurrier, whereas in our meta file, they seem a little cleaner and clearer, easier to read. Clicking on our meta file, going up to our picture toolbar, we notice that our filter of effects is unavailable. We still have the option of changing this to grayscale, black and white, or making this a watermark. Those all seem to work okay. Our color toolbar seems to work okay. But our transparency does not seem to work. Clicking on the bitmap, all of the filters work, as well as changing it to the watermark, black and white, or grayscale. The color toolbar appears to work, as well as the transparency. I'm going to select our bitmap and metafile characters, copy them, insert a new slide, and paste them. I'm going to zoom out a little. Going to move these guys up to the top. And I want to insert a colored background. Let's make this color gray. Now when I move my meta file over the gray background, we need to move our gray background to the back. Let me fix that. Arrangement, send to back. There we see our meta file. And when we move our bitmap, he seems to have a white background around him. As long as we've got a white background, that works great. But if we move it onto some other color, like a gray background, we seem to have a problem. To change this, I'm going into Tools, Color Replacer, and I'm going to use my eyedropper to select a color, even though I know it's already going to be white. When I move my arrow down, it turns into a hand. Notice when I put it over the yellow, the blue, right now I'm on the black, there's the blue. So I pick the color that I want to replace, and I'm choosing the white. Clicking that, it's telling us, okay, the white is selected with a tolerance of 10, meaning if I had it in blue and I wanted to have a couple of shades of blue, I might want to increase that tolerance. For now, I'm going to leave it alone. And I want to replace our white color with transparent. Clicking Replace. Now, if I select this bitmap and move him around, we see he's got a transparent background. Now, this doesn't only work for backgrounds. We could use it for a color. Let's select our eyedropper again. This time I'm going to select the maroon color of our meta file. And I want to change this color to, we'll make it red 4. When I click Replace, everywhere in that meta file that it finds that maroon is now changed to red 4.